So we can begin with our normal prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astomha Viddishavai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy and vigor. May our study be illumined. May we not unnecessarily quarrel with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So this is Vedanta series question and answer. If you have no questions, then there can be no answers. So I'll put myself on mute while you formulate a suitable question.
Swami, good morning. It's about titiksha because, in I don't know exactly what it is, but in Wikipedia it's written, it's to endure the pair of opposites, cold and hot, and so on. But when I read some books, it seems to me that titiksha means to endure always sufferings, not the pair of opposites. So it's why if you can explain a little better to me what it is, I would be very pleased. And, I have another question, but maybe it's not possible to answer this question. Is in the Vedanta, we suppose that God come as a man or a woman. We are all, representatives of God. How is it possible? How is it possible that God comes like you, but like me, or above or other people? It seems to me very. It's God must be. This is my two questions. Maybe there's other questions.
Okay, so let us deal with the first question to do with titiksha or forbearance. When we experience pain, there's a cause for it. And life intrinsically is painful. That sounds very pessimistic. But then if we look at it properly, we'll see that most of our life is avoiding pain. So we have a strategy whereby we move away from pain and move toward its opposite. Let's call it pleasure for the time being. Or we move away from unhappiness and move toward happiness. We move away from fear and move toward desire. And desire and fear seem to be opposites. The greatest fear that we have would be a fear of death. That is a fear of our own self-annihilation. But when we look at it properly, we'll see that that's not possible. Why is it not possible? Because our Vedanta teaches us, not just as a doctrine, but as a fact of experience, that anything that is assembled together will not be for its own independent good. We have ankles, we have arms and necks and heads, shoulders, and so on. These are parts. It's not for the sake of the body. It's for the sake of an independent entity that sees the body or uses the body in an instrumental way. Our mistake is we have made an identification, I am the body. Now this is related also to your second part, your second question. How does being enter into becoming is essentially your question, because it's not just that this manifestation from the divine comes out as men and women. It comes out in a seemingly fragmented way as everything. So we have to understand a kind of diagram. Formerly, I used to give these question-answer sessions with a whiteboard behind me, and so that would be in a hall. But the hall, of course, has a shaky internet connection at the moment. But I could show you very easily in a diagrammatic form what we mean. So let's try and imagine, use our imagination instead of a whiteboard. Let us put on our whiteboard one simple word, absolute. So what does absolute mean? Devoid of any characteristics, devoid of cleverness, devoid of mind, devoid of parts, devoid of time, devoid of space. We can take all of that away and say time and space. So let us do some kind of exercise. If you close your eyes and say, let us take time away, that means all movement goes away. You can put it in a funny way. Supposing now we think that whatever is in front visually, we now put on hold. Think of it as a kind of movie where things are moving. And in order to register our world, things have to be moving and things have to be changing. It's true of everything we observe. It's true of the body we happen to know. It's not the same body we had when we were 3 or 4 or 5 or as teens. It has changed. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. It depends on your opinion. So change and time, we register change because we register things as a series, a sequence of events. Oh, sorry, will you just open the door? I beg your pardon. As a sequence of events that happen within a certain framework. But if we take that off, so we put it in a funny way, please comb your hair nicely, look at yourself in the mirror, because 1, 2, 3, we take a photograph and nothing moves and nothing is going to move. Everything remains absolutely static. You now remove time and therefore a whole feeling of motion and change. All right, open your eyes now. Next thing is we close your eyes. Yeah, and we now remove space. Can you imagine removing space? Space is an environment in which we have objects occupying it. Is it possible to remove space away? You can't even imagine it. So the absolute is something that is completely unimaginable, something beyond our comprehension. As soon as we try to frame an object, we require these two things. We require time and we require space. Now, the absolute is devoid of any of this. The absolute is pure being. But with a slight apology, we can say, it's not that it is a nothing. It's not that it's a blank. It is existence itself. We know we cannot get anything which exists from non-existence. You can't have nothing making something from nothing. This is an age-old philosophical dispute. You can't have what the Buddhists, certain schools of Buddhism would call shunya, emptiness. Even if you empty the whole ocean, you still have something there. Sand will be there. Something will always be there. And that is why this absolute is pure being, pure existence itself. It's not that existence is a quality. It's not that it has life. It is life itself. And then it is consciousness. It is pure consciousness. So far we have a formula, Sat, Chit, and we also have Ananda. It is pure consciousness. That is, it is not that it's self-aware. It is not that it's aware of itself. It is not that it has any duality. But it is consciousness itself that, when expressed with the addition of time and space, comes out as rhythm, comes out as law, comes out as a progression toward a completion, a drive toward perfection. And every man and woman is at that state of semi-perfection, biological perfection, psychological perfection, potentially, that they can manifest this final stage, this divinity from within, and realize their own essence, which is this pure absolute. It's not that there is an absolute outside. The absolute has to manifest itself. And so does it. So you can imagine now a diagram. You can put an absolute at the top. And then if we draw a dotted line underneath it, because it's not that anything below that in the relative world is disconnected from it. And so what is in between? What makes being into becoming? We have to try to understand. So, and we have to understand why that is. There's a question often asked, why is that? How does it work? In the Gospel of Ramakrishna, we can catch something of a question. If the power of ignorance, which is in the way, ignorance comprising the lack of understanding of this absolute, then why has it been created? Why has God created it? We can put it in theological language, theistic language. Well, that's an interesting question. And the only explanation is going back to a concept of Leela. That is his play, says Ramakrishna. The glory of light cannot be appreciated without darkness. Happiness cannot be understood without misery. Knowledge of good is possible because of knowledge of evil. These two things have to be there. And this is part and parcel of nature itself. And then an example, beautiful example can be given, a mango. See, a mango grows and it ripens on account of its covering of skin. And when you throw away the skin when it's ripe and eat the mango, then you see the skin then becomes discarded. But the skin is necessary up until that point. And so it's possible for a person to attain gradually to the knowledge of this absolute because of the covering skin of what we call Maya. Now, what is Maya? Well, Maya has three constituent elements, not exactly qualities, because a quality has to come with a substance. These distinct, and they are distinct from the substance or object possessing them, and they're rather, we can describe it as three types of nature's energies, and they all produce specific results. So when this element of, this revealing element of purity and nobility and selflessness called sattva is predominant, then noble ideas will fill the mind. And when the other element, which we call rajas, is dominating, when it leads, then its egoistic aggression and exploitation of others can follow. This will be the result of it. And when the mind is stagnant, that is when this other element of inertia rules, we call it tamas, the mind becomes stagnant and darkness prevails at that point. Obsessions and other evils will then affect the mind if this dominates. And so these three binding elements or evolutionary forces that we call ropes or things that tether ourselves to a misunderstanding, a misreading, or an absence completely of understanding of this absolute, then these three gunas, they can affect all aspects of our life, every single aspect. And here we have to resort to how it's described in the Bhagavad Gita. Let us take the taste for food, for example, just as an example. Well, what the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita is foods that are bitter, foods that are sour, saline, that is salty, excessively hot and pungent, like chilies, for example, dry and burning, these are liked by the rajasic person. They are productive of pain, grief, and disease. Now, supposing we now decide that this is the type of food we like, and we embark on this, then don't be surprised if, and not according to me, but according to Lord Krishna, supposing we get pain and grief and disease that comes from this liking for a diet that predominates, has rajas as dominating, then we have no business to complain. We ourselves produced it because we liked it. That's all, simple as that. And it means, of course, that anyone who wants to remain sattvic and pure, purity being producing a condition where revelation of this absolute truth gets revealed, then we should avoid taking such food. See, the gunas affect the actor, it affects the action and the person's outlook, all of them. Now, having produced itself, what should we do? Should we complain? Well, complaining won't help. Should we make a reformation and decide we'll take sattvic food? Yes. What should we do in the meantime? The only thing we can do is forbearance, titiksha. Titiksha means that what we cannot cure, we have to endure with an uncomplaining mood and understand it belongs to the body in this example. And I am not the body. I am not all these series of parts. I'm independent from it. Understanding this is called discernment or discrimination, and that is necessary for all of us. With this discerning attitude, we can then engage in a different mode of behavior, and we can avoid pain in the future. We have the determinative faculty whereby we can avoid pain that is to come. This is laid out in Patanjali Yoga Sutras. We can't do anything about the past, but we can avoid the pain that is to come in the future by reforming what we have now, but it requires an element of enthusiasm. And part of the enthusiasm might be nature giving us a prodding direction. Hey, come on. You don't have to experience this level of physical pain or psychological pain. And all of us are suffering in one way or another. All of us have suffered physical pain in the past. Some are suffering from physical pain now. And everybody, no doubt, will suffer physical pain in the future. It's unavoidable. It's the rent we pay for the human body. But how should we deal with it? We deal with it by an equanimity, I should say, an equanimity of mind that we can cultivate by understanding our own divine nature in us and the divine nature or in everyone else. How is it that a man and a woman can contain the kingdom of heaven that is within them? Well, without it, eyes don't shine. Speech does not occur. Movement doesn't happen. And we have to understand then that it is not that the Creator stood aloof and made a creation, like a potter made a clay object from primordial clay. No. You know how the scientific position is. There's a story, probably told you before, where materialist scientists say, oh, and they have a conversation with their non-existent God. By the way, we have learned the secret of your creation. Oh, what did you do, my children? Well, we find it very easy. First of all, we took clay. And then oh, wait, says God. What? Please get your own clay. Don't use my clay. Find your own clay, please. So we are attributing things to ourselves as an agency, which we should not really be attributing things to. We have no energy of our own. We have no life of our own. It is all divinity, and that divinity is manifest through us and is manifest as movement. It's manifest as intelligence. It's manifest as a will to survive or exist. Existence itself manifests as a will to live. Existence itself manifests as a will to relate to others as an existent entity. And then what about intelligence? We can use our discernment. And our discernment comes from a faculty, a discerning faculty, a function to discern and choose and act on our choice, what we might call free will, which we have discussed previously. That is, standing back. You're not part of the choice. You're not part of the objects of choice. You're that entity that freely stands and has these presented alternatives in front and says, I will choose this and choose that. And sometimes our choice has become intrinsic to our unconscious nature. It becomes a habit. For example, we don't have a free choice, it seems. If a fly or a mosquito comes near us, then we have an automatic swatting action. And probably learned from eons and eons of biological defense coming to us through biological evolution. And it's there within our structure, as it were. But all of these habits will come from learning. It will come from our previous experience of some kind, which acts as a tutor. And we learn the lesson. And then that becomes part and parcel of our external nature. But our internal nature is always the same. And so we have to manifest this divinity from within. We have to take seriously the summary statement that Swami Vivekananda gives us in his Raja Yoga. Each soul is potentially divine, and the goal is to manifest this divinity from within. And now that means that below this dotted line, when we come into becoming, we have to invoke time, we have to invoke space, we have to invoke these three evolutionary forces that interplay. And what is the salient characteristic of all of these is mind. We don't have a mind of our own. And the mind, when this absolute is looked at through a mind, it becomes a fragmenting instrument. What we call man, what we call a woman, what we call objects, table, chair, floor, ceiling, sky, sun, moon, stars. All of these are seemingly fragmented versions of this one absolute. How do we do away with this view of fragmentation that we relate to and take for or mistake for the reality? We have to cultivate an attitude of nobility, of selflessness. And in order to do that, we have to be brave. We have to be courageous. We have to be immune to the pairs of opposites, of pain and pleasure, praise and blame, hot and cold. This element of forbearance is what we call titiksha. Cultivating this strength is a key quality. It is one of the 6 treasures necessary for a student. A teacher would have to be completely selfless, have no interest for any gain. There'll be no motive that is egocentric in it. You're purely assisting through pure love. The Brahma Samaj in a conversation that I've just mentioned, that asks this question, it would equate to how does being translate into becoming? And then they go on to ask, the members of the Brahmo Samaj are opposed to the traditional guru system of Orthodox Hinduism, and therefore the Brahmo devotee asks the master about it. So a conversation goes like this. Is spiritual knowledge impossible without a guru? And the master replies, Sat Chit Ananda alone is the guru. This absolute alone is the guru, because it is only this absolute that we can label Sat, existence itself, Chit, consciousness itself, and Ananda, bliss. Why Ananda? Because that is not time-bound. It is infinite. And you can't even imagine infinite. We can get some idea about it, some concept of it. We can look out into a blue sky and see no end to it. That becomes a symbol of infinity. We can look out into darkness of space, where the density of all the objects is very, very little. Space is almost dilute. It has very little density. And we can get some idea of how it goes on forever and how it looks infinite, even though it is finite. But we can make a symbol of it. We can look out at the ocean. We can never see beyond the horizon, and gives us some idea of this infinity. But of course, we know it is finite. It's only a symbol. So it is this actually Satchit Ananda alone is the guru, because it alone is the only thing that exists. There is only one thing there. There is not this fractional point of view. It is only our fragmented or fragmenting mind that presents itself with units of division. So if a man in the form of a guru awakens spiritual consciousness in you, says Ramakrishna, then know for certain that it is God, the Absolute, who has assumed that human form for your sake. The guru is like a companion who leads you by the hand. After realizing God, one loses the distinction between the guru and the disciple. The relationship between them remains as long as the disciple does not see God. So there's a wonderful statement that is related to what we are discussing. Anyway, the person who has a rajasic view of things, sees in all beings various entities of distinct kinds, different from one another. The sattvic outlook is difficult, that by which one sees the one indestructible reality in all beings, says the Bhagavad Gita, not separate in all separate beings. Know thou that knowledge to be sattvic. How do we cultivate the sense of oneness? We have to tune the mind with noble values, selfless values. And one sure way of doing that is to see this absolute in all beings. See the self in all beings and all beings in the self. And the Bhagavad Gita personalizes it. See me. In other words, see God in all beings. That means feel. If we were to do this, then all aggression due to rajasic distinctions would dissolve. When we say, let there be peace on earth, let nobody criticize anybody else. Let us not accuse, let us not demand, let us not complain, says the Divine Mother of the universe in the form of Holy Mother, Sharada Devi. But how do you get to that point? Make the whole world your own, she expands. That is all you can do. And why should you do this? It is because there is only oneness there. Our mistake is seeing it in a divided way. And that is necessary for us to engage in this play, this drama. So the next thing is, why should it happen? Why should being become becoming? Why should that transition take place? And the only answer we have is, it is a divine play, it is a divine drama that we take seriously and we suffer pain from it. Pain is the result of not seeing it in a proper way. What is the remedy? We have to be much more observant. What is discernment or viveka? It is the capacity to observe things in a proper way. And when we observe things in a proper way, we catch the unity of existence, which is there. And then at a certain stage, we have to take on a different, more adventurous point of view, instead of a complaining point of view. Titiksha, forbearance. Part and parcel of it will be that the recognition that we are, if you like, treading in unknown territory. We think we know it, but then round the corner, life presents a surprise. Life is not even. It is full of things jumping out at us. And so we can say that these are foreign paths we're treading on. And to tread foreign paths, don't ask for an easy tarred path or tarred road, but put on thick soled shoes instead. Don't ask for the road to be made easy. Don't ask, may I not have any pain? But put on the armor of God. And the armor of God is there. And that is there, if we talk about a guru who has given a mantra, your guru, your scripture, your own self, your own body, your own mind. This is all combined armor, God's armor that you can put on. So put on the armor of God. Mantra is a protecting thought, is its meaning. And that will give you strength and protection. And at some stage in your adventure, you realize that hope for the future must be replaced with thankfulness for the past. I'm glad that I'm here in my present condition because of a very useful path or a past. And the past, we may criticize. We may go to a psychotherapist and say, oh, my past was not good, and rake it all up. But our final conclusion is, I am here and now as a person who has the opportunity for future growth and possibilities and infinite possibilities to unfold because of my past. We can't say it was useless. It was all useful. The basis of it is the kingdom of heaven is already within us. It is not something to get in a post-mortem condition. It is not something that will arrive tomorrow, like a DHL package. It is not a series of events. We look out the window. When is God coming? Oh, he's not here yet. Change my religion, change my guru. Look out the window. No, not here yet. When will he come? That will produce the utmost anxiety and drain all our energy. Well, it's already here. Already God. Kingdom of heaven is within us. And you are the traveler. And you are the path also. And you are the destination. You are all three. This has to be a replaced attitude. And just as a person who can, I don't know, sing and write poems, remains the same person, the same, without altering his own nature, the ocean always remains the same, despite the waves that may alter their shape. The kingdom of heaven remains the same, although men, women, objects, children, other beings will change their shape and will change their personality, the ocean remains the same. So be understanding by making right observations. Right observations is called yoga. What is yoga? Yoga is observation through discrimination. That's yoga. Then, when you understand it, use it as a lever to arrive at the truth. If you're a person who is fond of, I don't know, apples or mangoes, then don't yield to distraction by someone throwing apples or mangoes at you. Throwing it from across the way, go straight to your goal. Concentrate on that which you have decided has got the first priority. That is really the path of discernment. All the things that are in the field, all the people and places and events that are in the field of experience, they don't have a value of their own. They're there for the benefit of someone else. As long as there are divisions or seeming divisions, as long as there are parts, as long as there are aggregates, they're all combined, not for their own use, but they're combined so that you ultimately come to the Lord for whose benefit everything is made. The parts of anything that are put together as a fundamental philosophical truth is not for its own good or the good of the parts. It's for the benefit of someone else who's going to use it. Your hands, your ankles, your heads, as I say, are not for the benefit of the body. They're for the benefit of an independent owner, someone that is described in the Upanishads as an internal occupier. Something was made and then an inner controller occupied it. Something within you is not only existent, but controlling from within. Like driving a car. There's an inner controller, the driver, and the car is an external instrument. And as soon as we mix up this instrumentality with ownership, we're on the wrong path. We've diverted ourselves, and we've entrenched ourselves in pain and misery. So if you are, let's say, assailed by all kinds of thoughts, let us say, of a busy day ahead, or a week ahead, or a work which might be difficult, it's because you're living way out there on the fringe instead of here in the present moment. You can have an alternative. You can wake up with joy. You can wake up with an attitude of giving in the same generous way that the source of life is flowing through you and giving you. And so hope can be replaced by an attitude of thankfulness. See, my old formula is a sense of wonder, a sense of thankfulness, a sense of worship. All that is cultivated. There was one questioner who put a question in text after yesterday's talk actually, which was the story of Ram. And if I can remember the question correctly, it was, so this path of doing the right thing and discriminating requires an intellect. And during the process of a talk, I had said and always say that there is always a gap between emotion and the principle. We can know that there is a principle of, let us say, God or a supreme principle somewhere. We can read all the philosophy about it, and we can get some intellectual understanding about it. Or maybe not even. Maybe we're just brought up with a set of standards and norms and repeat it. Religion then becomes a repetition of a practice that we don't really put any feeling into. If you, for example, repeat a mantra and you don't have the accompanying feeling with it, then dullness will set in and you will fall asleep. If you repeat elephant, 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 an image of elephant will come. This is called nama. The rupa is the actual elephant. The nama side of it will be a memory of it, and it gets replayed. Your memory comes up and comes back into the conscious area. When some impression comes into your conscious area, we call it memory. At that point, we call it memory. But just by thinking of an elephant without any understanding of its qualities or any realistic accompanying association with the elephant, then it'll be like the proverbial counting sheep. You know, there's an old formula. If you suffer from insomnia, then you imagine sheep jumping across a fence. 1, 2, you start counting them. Eventually, after sheer dullness, after sheer boredom, you start falling asleep. So there's a certain school of thought, let's call it this, which gives you a mantra and says it has no meaning. And just repeat it. This is just amounts to superstition, because every word has a corresponding concept. You can't avoid it. And if you put this word devoid of the concept, then the mind will be dull. You'll be knocking every idea that you have on the head with a mantra. As soon as an idea comes, hit it on the head with a false idea that all your equilibrium of mind is attained when there is no thought in the mind is a misunderstanding of the second sutra contained in the first chapter of the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. No, thought, the mind is supposed to have thought in it. It's there to do it. We have an attention, we have a faculty, a kind of probing mechanism, and we can steer it. Please go here, please go there. You know, when a child is obsessed with its toys and occupied with it, or with some candy or something like that, it's quite happy for the time being until it cries for its mother. And then no amount of candy, no amount of toys will persuade the child otherwise. The only remedy is when that child sits on the mother's lap, and then the crying stops. This is the same thing with us. When we get tired of toys, get tired of the candy, and resort to the supreme principle in the form, let us say, of a nurturing mother, then we become much more satisfied. And then even forbearance yields to contentment and satisfaction. We forget the painful moments. A child falls down and scrapes the knee, and the mother picks it up and diverts the child's attention. Look at the moon, look at the flower, look at the tree. And for the time being, the child has forgotten the pain. And when the attention is diverted away when there is nothing else to divert its attention. Oh, my poor knee, and the pain comes back again. So we have to be, first of all, have tremendous faith that all of this pain and pleasure is steering us in a certain direction, is giving us an urge, a clue. Come on, look higher, look higher. Try and find your original nature, which we can describe as blissful base. We've described Sat, existence itself. We've described consciousness, consciousness itself. But what about Ananda, bliss? Our base is blissful. It transcends this pain and pleasure syndrome. And every time we resort to it, directly or indirectly, indirectly means, you see, if we look at a scene full of beauty, it inspires the mind. We don't want to possess it. We don't want to change it. We don't look out at a sunset and say, I think God should have made a little bit more mauve here, a little bit more pink there. No, we accept it. We don't want to put it in our pocket and take it away with us. We don't want to possess it. We simply want to admire it because there's something within us that registers it, and that is our deepest nature. It registers something that invokes a higher sentiment within us. And as far as we're aware, no animal has that element of profound experience. They may have some of it, of course, but no other animal has the capacity to appreciate a sense of culture, a sense of inquiry, a sense of elevation of the mind that is not to do with physical survival or not to do with avoiding pain. It is not there to avoid pain. We don't use it as a device for it. It's a spontaneous registration within that gives us an internal sense of joy and rapture. And it's something we can deliberately, consciously cultivate. This is called sattva. The cultivation of this is called sattva. Refreshing the mind through a revaluation of things. And wherever we look is nothing more than this fragmented God. How can God be fragmented? How can the absolute be fragmented? Oh, it's not a real fragmentation. And when we saturate the mind with the sattva, the fragmentation goes away. The intellect itself becomes a spotlight, a shining light of revelation, where we discover that which is lighting it is already there within. And the attention serves as a kind of toward it. So how is it that we don't know it? We give an example. Yesterday, I think it was, to a small group of people. So supposing you have a lamp, a globe, a light which is extremely brilliant, and we put a filter over it, let us say orange filter. Then a person who sees it, comes in the room for the first time and doesn't know there's a filter there, will say, oh, what a beautiful orange light you have. They'll think that the original light is orange. And then supposing you put another filter on, let's say red, and a person comes in not knowing, you'll see a red filter, an orange filter, and the combination of these two colors, it will take, let us say, as a kind of a pink. They'll say, what a beautiful pink light you get. Where did you buy this pink light? Not knowing the original light was white light. But it's these filters. In this way, we have multiple filters. And the more filters we have, the more ignorance about the original source we have. And yet, at the final stage of our vision, we see it, we see hints of it. And these hints we call life. Life, light, and love. This we see, but we don't understand it's the original. We think it is independent of the original thing. And so, what is our spiritual practice? Our spiritual practice is elevating the mind that has the effect of removing the filters, one at a time, And the more we remove, the less dense our ignorance, until finally there's a thin film. And this thin film is what we call the border. It is the dotted line between the absolute and the manifest, the relative. It is the borderline, which is the causal borderline also for our misunderstanding. And this borderline we call God. And somebody who arrives at that point will come to an experience that we call savikalpa samadhi, seeing so close to the original light, the absolute, and yet seeing also its effect, its radiating effect underneath it, the relative world full of a kind of display of color, like rainbow color, like the visible spectrum, which is pure white light seemingly split up into 7 areas. And yet when you look at it closely, it's only one light, white light. So the faculty of discernment will have the effect of removing each filter, and the effect is called detachment. And detachment means we were no longer interested in the sweets and the toys of the child. We're now more interested in the solid comfort, secure comfort, the nourishing comfort of the Divine Mother, as an example. So we have to see that a man and a woman will be the highest manifestation in the relative world, the highest manifestation in our world of humanity. But in the whole cosmos, there are much more subtle and elevated manifestations. You can see more clearly this supreme manifested in mankind than you would in a rock, or than you would in a worm, or than you would in a crocodile, or than you would in a mammal. And the evolution in Swami Vivekananda's language would be a description of something jumping out from something else. That a mammal jumps out from a reptile. He doesn't put it that way, we can put it that way. And out of the mammal jumps man, and out of man jumps God. And that is the evolutionary process. It doesn't end in man. It ends in the divine. It ends in the revelation of the kingdom of heaven, which is within. And where the kingdom is, the king is also there. You cannot have a kingdom without the king. And so the economy of life means that we are introduced again and again into what we might call a university of life. And this acts as a kind of laboratory, an experimental area that we can experiment in. We can pass our exams or sit our exams in. And until we have learned that there is nothing else except God. God alone exists. And this is our theological language for it. But our philosophical language will be Brahman. And what is Brahman? We cannot describe. We can never describe. And so what is the definition of God? Is the highest reading to the human mind of the absolute. The highest reading to the human mind of the absolute. And when you realize this oneness, you've passed your final examination. You are free. And if not, well, then you're allowed to come again and again, if you like, and take a return ticket until you've learned that there is nothing other than God. And that's all there is. So I don't know, I've gone on now with only 10 minutes to spare, but I hope I've answered both your questions and also answered the question that came up from yesterday. So we have 10 more minutes for additional questions now.
Yes, I have a question.
Good. The
The
population of Nigeria, I don't know. Go on. Okay.
The thing is, before, during the time of, the sickness, my guru who used to say, have faith in Guru, it will all cure.
Yes.
But I always thought, but why should I have faith in Guru just because I have to get, I have to get rid of the sickness? Why should I have? Why should I really bother the Guru regarding this matter? I always thought this. But
Mm.
recently, nowadays, like just 2 months ago, then again I fell in that mode. So I thought, okay, this body is given by Guru, so I'll have faith in him. So let him ride, and let if the sickness comes, let it come, or if he wants me to get healthy, let it be healthy. So I thought this way, and then it all came to a certain condition, in a very good condition. So, I mean, the former is the good thing, is the right thinking, or now what I am thinking is the right one?
Well, faith is a very interesting subject because what we call faith is very often doubt. Because if faith contains an element of hope or an element of begging or an element of wish fulfillment, it is no longer faith. You see, we have faith that the sun will rise tomorrow. We don't have to think about it. We take it for granted. We can have faith in the effect of positive thinking. We can have faith in our religion. We can have faith in the Guru. We can have faith in God. But if there's any element of let me get something, it's no longer faith. So the other side of faith is the capacity to let go, to release. And I always use the example. Of course, it's an outdated example now because nobody uses, or very few people now use, what we call snail mail. You take a letter, you write a letter, you put an envelope, you go to the post box, and you put the letter in the post box, and you know on the post box there's normally a time there for collection. So it's probably an old-fashioned idea that ultimately will fade away. I don't know. But let's say that you post a letter. You see, we have a habit of saying, now let me see, just to be sure, let me wait for 5 o'clock so the postman comes and make sure he collects all the letters and doesn't leave mine behind inadvertently. And then just to make sure, let me then follow the postman to the sorting office and make sure that watch the CCTV camera, make sure that the sorting is going on correctly, and then ask the post office, did you manage to sort my letter properly? And they say, probably, I don't know. But was it airmail? Oh, yes. Oh, well, it's probably going on tonight's aircraft. Okay, then you book a ticket and accompany the mail. And you may as well have delivered it yourself, you see. So we have this habit of looking, of peeping. We should forget about the peeping habit because it's contrary to faith. It's no longer faith. And if we have a prayer that says, may this, may that, you see, I want this, it's equally valid to say I haven't got it. I want this, I haven't got it, +1, -1, you won't get anywhere. So faith means absolute trust. Faith and trust are synonymous terms in this area. But it's not blind faith either. It is blind faith is superstition. We eschew blind faith. So faith has a range of, first of all, superstitious blind faith on the one side, a lack of inquiry, simply doing something like that. An element of that, of course, would be useful, but we are thinking beings. We can't leave it there. We have to find out why. And then on the other side of it is unwavering conviction. Unwavering conviction means leaving it there. May I pass my exams? I hope so. I hope so. No, it's not in the future. We have to take the future element away from it and put the past element in it, which says, already accomplished. Thank you. Thanks, already accomplished. Thanks, already accomplished. Finished. Now, to encourage this, I get people to visualize something. So, supposing you want to pass an exam, and I say, yes, yes, already accomplished. Inwardly, I'm saying it. Outwardly, I'm saying, oh, will you invite me to your graduation? Let's think about this. Imagine me now in the front row congratulating you. By stimulating that, is equivalent to say already accomplished. That is true faith. You post your letter and you leave it. And you let it go. That is real faith. Yeah. So faith means faith in yourself, because within you is the Atman, that God is residing in yourself, and even the expression of that with your unique talents and abilities. You have faith in the capacity, the God-given gifts that you have. Then you have faith in the environment. You are in an environment which contains all the divine manifested resources for your success. You don't have to look outside that. The tough shoes that I request you to put on in going in foreign roads and foreign paths, you already have them. You just have to apply it. And then faith in the scripture, the principles of truth. Faith in the resource that we call the Guru, and faith in God. And the Guru is really that faucet through which divine grace flows. And so faith in that whole mechanism, if you will, that whole flow of grace which comes. So this is really faith. And if you have all of that, then already accomplished.
Thank you.
Okay. So, all right. Anything else? Anything else? What a wonderful game, isn't it? See, we should enjoy the game. We should enjoy the play of it. I should add one thing in terms of forbearance. Forbearance is also a kind of persistence. It's faith-based. I think the most wonderful example that I can come across is the story of Vishwamitra, who again and again and again, with sheer resolve, got from a state of jealousy, anger, to a state of Brahmarishi, the highest possible state of freedom in this world. So in his case, it was a transformation that came over a number of austerities. And there's a reason why we say that this is a series of austerities or tapasya. Tapas means the heat that is caused by friction, and we have to be prepared to go against the grain. We have to be prepared to be a rebel and move against the norm. And we have to be prepared to gradually change with a great deal of persistence, a great deal of courage, a great deal of dedication and determination. These are qualities all involved in this wonderful quality of titiksha. This is one of the treasures, by the way. There's a fourfold requirement for a student. I didn't complete that. So it starts off with yearning. Yearning. Unless we have a yearning for something, unless we have a strong desire for something, and then a determination and a dedication, we won't get what we want in any context. So if we want the highest freedom, we have to have a yearning heart for it. We have to have a thirst for it. And if we don't have it, we have to cultivate it. And if we are devotees, we have to pray for it. So that's the one thing. But we have to have this discernment, that is observing things correctly. We have to have detachment, which means the absence of any diversions. And then we have to have these treasures. So these treasures include titiksha. They include concentration. They include purity of mind, self-control. They include faith. They include an atmosphere cultivation of a sense of contentment, which equates to thankfulness. All of these things are treasures. And this determination to carry on regardless, even if concentration wavers, to come back to that single condition. All right. So with that, we leave it there. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace beyond all. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji. Merci.
Thank you.
Mahagat Swami, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Swamiji.